Yaakov, good morning and mazel tov for your siyum.
Thank you, Rabbi. Likewise.
All right, Chavra, let's go. Freilach. Freilach soll men sein. With the help of Hashem, we are learning Shabbos Daf Kuf Lamed Aleph. As we began this Perek, the Machlokes between Rabbi Eliezer and the Mishnah and Rabbi Akiva, as we already worded it yesterday, really it's a Machlokes between Rabbi Eliezer and the Chachamim, because the majority of the opinion is against Rabbi Eliezer. Rabbi Eliezer is the one that says that Machshirei Mila are also Doiches Shabbos, and we're going to start today's sugya by a statement from Rabbi Yochanan that says that Loi Lakoil Amar Rabbi Eliezer Machshirei Mitzvah Doiches Shabbos. In other words, it's unique to Mila, but not to everything. Now, really, the Gemara is going to go through today many mitzvahs, and we will see that Rabbi Eliezer actually doesn't only say it by Mila. Rabbi Eliezer's shita will be that Machshirei Lulav, Machshirei Sukkah, Machshirei Matzah, Machshirei Shofar, they also are even Doiches Shabbos, as we'll go through each and every one. However, Machshirei Mezuzah and Machshirei Tzitzis are not Doiche Shabbos. And that is what Rabbi Yochanan was referring to. And that's really going to be the whole daf. In other words, we're going to have to find the sources. From where does Rabbi Eliezer learn that, like we mentioned, that Machshirei Lulav and Sukkah and Matzah and Shofar are Doiche? Then we're going to have to explain, if you have a source for one, why wouldn't that suffice to use it as a Bameh Matzinu and teach everything else? Why each one is unique and each one needs to have its own source? And then ultimately, we're going to come back to Machshirei Mila. What's the source for Rabbi Eliezer that Machshirei Mila is Doiches Shabbos? And I want to make a correction. When we started yesterday the Perek, I said that Mila is Doiches Shabbos. That's from the pasuk in Pashas Tazria that Ubayir Mashmini Yimoil B'Sar Or Losei. We're going to see, God willing, in tomorrow's daf in Kuf Lamed Beis, not Lav Dafka. Actually, we're going to just to give out one. One holds that Mila's Doiches Shabbos is Halacha L'Moshe Sinai. And the Ubayim Hashmini Yimol Besar Or Losei, that will be used by Rabbi Eliezer as his source, that Ubayim Hashmini, as long as the birth was natural, and it's a Bayim Hashmini Bris, it's a Mila Bismana, no matter when you do it, even if you didn't prepare the preliminaries, which means that the only way to do the Bris Mila is by being Machalal Shabbos for the Machshirei Mila, that will be one of the sources of, or one opinion of the source of Rabbi Eliezer. And Chavra, let us start. We left off 10 lines from the top of the Amid. Amar Abchia Barabba, Amar Rabbi Yochanan. That's already 11 lines from the top of the Amid. Again, the sugi is about Machshirim, And let's make it clear, like the Mishnah mentioned, machshirim, preliminaries, doesn't only mean one step behind. Like Rabbi Eliezer gave an example of you can chop trees down to make coal, to make a knife. All of those steps before the milah. According to Rabbi Eliezer, once you hold machshirim, our doiches Shabbos, it goes all the way back, as far back as need be. Okay. Amar Rabchia bar Abba, Amar Rabbi Yochanan. Loi lakoil Amar Rabbi Eliezer, that machshirei mitzvah doichenes HaShabbos. In other words, it's not by everything, it's not for everything. And the proof is, and look at the irony of the proof of Rabbi Yochanan, he's not going to bring a mitzvah where we see that their machshirin are not doichen. No, he's going to bring another mitzvah that clearly the machshirin are doichen Shabbos. But the fact you needed a special limud for it proves that without a unique limud, we wouldn't say it. Sharei shtei halechem chayvas hayomeim. Shtei halechem is referring to the two loaves of bread that come together with the shalmei chagiga. This is the only communal shlamim. The korbanos that are brought on Shavuos. With each lamb comes a loaf of chametz dika bread. And what would happen if the Kohanim did not prepare those breads before Shabbos? We're speaking obviously when Shavuos is on Shabbos. Shavuos is really one day biblically. And the din is, are you not going to bring the shtei alechem? You do, but it's not that Rabbi Eliezer takes it as a given. Avad, if you didn't bake them, the mitzvah is to offer them as a korban. Preliminary is to bake them, or any other stage in preliminary. But the loylamadam Rabbi Eliezer Ella. How does he take a note that, yeah, we do bake them, if need be, on Shabbos from a Gezerah Shava? Rashi writes that clearly, because, guys, whatever we'll be learning today is dafka not about the mitzvah itself. We're learning about machshirim, all right? So Rashi says that afiyason titcha Shabbos, and we only learn it from a Gezerah Shava. And let's finish reading the Rashi. The ibakoil machshirim mitzvah sheikah mitzvah nehages b'Shabbos. Amar, would Rabbi Eliezer automatically say that machshirecha k'maisa, then lama li gzeira shava? In fact, you need to have a limud. So again, we're bringing a raya from something where Rabbi Eliezer also holds that it's doicha. The question is, why do you need to have b'chlal a raya? Back inside the Gemara. Rabbi Eliezer elam b'gzeira shava, and the Tanya Rabbi Eliezer oimer minayin l'machshirei shtei alechem shadoichem es haShabbos. You could bake them on Shabbos. The Torah uses the words to bring. And this is a pasuk we have in Emer, where it says, Miyoim havi achem es oimer hatnufa, to bring. And the Torah also uses the same expression of hava. Not exact, it's not the same letters, but it's the same meaning. It says, Taviu lechem tanufa, to bring. So what do we learn from that? Ma hava amur ba'omer. The din is by the omer that machshirim doichenes HaShabbos. What's the machshirim? What's the machshirim of the omer? Says Rashi. Guys, look inside Rashi, like the 8 or 9 lines at the end of the narrow lines. Ma hava amor ba'omer machshireh dahainu. We know what the machshirim are. Tzira, harvesting the barley. You have tchina. You have grinding it. Harkada, sifting it. Mamash, all of the steps. We're not even talking, forget about baking it. No, it's going all the way back to the beginning. And now here, the Brayso doesn't bring the source, so Rashi reminds us, we learned this, my friends, in the Nachos, that when it says in the Chumash, Becharish ubakotzer tishbois, this is a pasuk in reference, according to some, to Shabbos. Ma charish rishus. From what do we have to rest on Shabbos? From charisha, that's not a mitzvah, because we don't have any charisha of a mitzvah. It doesn't exist. When the Torah does not allow us to harvest, what type of harvesting do we need to refrain from on Shabbos? Only that which is called a rishus. Yatsa katzira so aimer, that the harvesting of the aimer is a mitzvah. And the ayin shom in menachas, daf ayin bay is more pratim. So we're not debating that. No, it's machshirim aimer is clearly the Shabbos because it is in itself a mitzvah. Back inside the Gemara. Back inside the Brayso. And since we have the Gezerah Shava, right, even though no one is saying here that baking the bread is a mitzvah, no one is saying that the harvesting the wheat for the Shtei HaLechem. The Shtei HaLechem came from wheat, or Oimer came from barley. No, we're not saying that. It's not called Machshirim. But because of the Hava, we have this Gezeda Shava. And again, the proof of Rabbi Yechanan is, why do you even need a Gezeda Shava? Is that Rabbi Eliezer doesn't hold automatically if the mitzvah is doicha, the Machshirim are doicha? No. Now the question then will be, so how does he know that by Mila, Machshirim is doicha? We'll get to that at the end. But let's first begin. First of all, this every now and then this comes up. Whenever Chazal bring a Gezeda Shava, so we have these three types of Gezeda Shavas. They all originate from the same. Hashem has to tell Moshe Rabbeinu what words are to be used for Gezeda Shava, because Ein Adam done Gezeda Shava, right? Only if he heard it from his Rebbe. But even there, since God did not tell him which word to which word, we have to have Azaruach HaKodesh. Chazal knew what it must refer to, but if there's a reason why we should not compare two topics together, because you have a kasha on it, it's called Meshivin, you can slug it up, then it depends. If the words used for the Gezeda Shava are freed up from both sides, that means in each context they're extra, that's called Mufna, then even if you can slug it up, doesn't matter, the Gezeda Shava stands. It's called Lamedim Ve'ein Meshivin. If neither of the words are free, then you can still use it as long as logically these two dinim that you are comparing to each other are compatible. But if you have a kasha on it, so it's called lamedim, you can make a limud, but on meshivin you have the right to slug it up. Now, if you have a Gezeda Shava that's freed only from one side, that's the machlokes, whether lamedim umeshivin, or at least it's open from one side, and that's good enough, and therefore you cannot slug it up. So now the Gemara makes a point that you should know that this Gezeda Shava must be free. Now, whether it's free from both sides or not, we'll see in a moment. But it has to be free. Why? Because the Eloi Mufna, if it would not be a freed Gezeda Shava, that means the words are mamish extra. They're only written to make the Gezeda Shava the Nikela Mifrach, like we just mentioned. By Oimer, we don't call, like Rashi said, the Ktsira and the Tchina, we don't say that that's Machshirim. That's part of the mitzvah. Malo Oimer Shkenim Matzor Katzur Kaitzer. How do I know it's part of the mitzvah? If the Beis Hamikdash, if the Gizbarim would already own harvested barley from that year that was harvested before Shabbos, you have to harvest it on the day of the 16th. On the 16th. Now, what happens if the 16th is Shabbos? Now we bring it on 16th. Here it's Yom Tov. First of all, Yom Tov, Oichel Nefesh is Doichel Shabbos, but Oichel Nefesh doesn't allow you to harvest because you could have harvested a day before. Here we're speaking about Shabbos, the day of the Omer. The din is, we learned all that in Menachos, that you have to even begin by harvesting the barley on Shabbos itself. In andere Werten, it's a mitzvah itself. It's not reshus, it's a mitzvah. Not only is it not a mitzvah, I'll go more than that. By the Omer, you have to harvest it l'shem mitzvahs Omer. By the Shtei HaLechem, you b'chlal don't need to harvest it l'shem mitzvahs Shtei HaLechem. This is all connected because that's like only called Machshirim. So by Omer, it's not Machshirim. Here it's Machshirim. So if not for the Gezeda Shava being Mufna, you would refute it. And the Gemara says, yeah, Lo'i, that's the lashon we always have in the Braises whenever we use this question of Mufna. Lo'i means be'emes, takazoi, that afnuye Mufna. And why is that? Because guys, we're talking here about the Omer psukim. These are 5 psukim earlier than the pasuk that we quoted. The miyoim habiyachem eresoiven atrufa. 5 psukim earlier it says vavesem esoimer. So miyoim habiyachem lamali. In other words, the whole miyoim, the Torah could have written miyoim ha'omer. The word Havayachim, the whole word is Mufna, is extra. So indeed, God wrote an extra word for us to be able to make a Gezeda Shava using the Omer as the source for Shtei HaLechem, even though really without the Afnuye Mufna, you would refute it. Now, this is always, some have the opinion that when you have a kasha, when you have a Meshivin on a Gezeda Shava, it's not enough for it to be Mufna only in one. Both of them have to be Mufna. So the Gemara says, Vakati Mufna only misadechatu. And the problem is that Vishma'in and Leila Rabbi Eliezer the Amar, Rabbi Eliezer, we know, is the one that holds that mufna only mitzad echad, even though lemeidim, doesn't mean you can't make it, you can make it, but if you have a refutation, umeshivin, you refute it, you slug it up. No. So what do you do with the Gzeira Shava? So the Gemara says, no, that's not a problem, because the word taviu, like we mentioned, by the shtei alechem, it says taviu, lechem tenufa, is also ribuyehu, it's also extra. And like Rashi writes, guys, read inside the Rashi 5 lines before the bottom of the Amid. The Havamina didn't have that. Ribuyehu, the hom, the yikraftem mincha chadash samech, the parsha begins, the yikraftem mincha chadash. So the Torah, if the Torah only would have written mimosh voisechem, lechem tenufa. The Torah began the parsha with using the words v'yikraftem. And Bachlal guys appreciate from this now that what's toviu? What toviu? You're not toviuing anything. You're bringing it as a carbon. The lashon hakosiv normally is a carbon. Every carbon is brought, but we don't use the word bringing by karbanos. We use the word carbon by karbanos. And indeed, the Torah did not have to write the whole world taviu. So the taviu was extra, and therefore we have now a Gzeira Shava. Okay. So now that the Rabbi Yochanan brought his raya, okay, what exactly is Rabbi Yochanan really excluding? And as we'll go through, beautiful, we're going to go through many dinim in the Torah. One has nothing to do with the other. True that loy lakoil, but for many other mitzvahs, Rabbi Eliezer also will say, like he says by Mila, that it is doicha Shabbos. So let's analyze what exactly is he excluding. Says the Gemara, lema ute mai, lemam, lema uta lula, no, vehatanya, as we learned in the Brayso, lula, b'chol machshir of doicha Shabbos, the Rabbi Eliezer clearly. Hakamachloikas tanoim, but Rabbi Eliezer holds like he holds by Mila. Now, guys, what will be a good example of machshirei lulav? Machshirei lulav will mean the chacham didn't cut it off the tree. Kaitzer. A person did not cut the lulav before Shabbos. Now, guys, obviously, now we know because of Gzeira Darabba that came about many years later, we don't take a lulav on Shabbos. Fine, but that's before that Gzeira. Or even after the Gzeira, that's only outside Bamedina. Bamedina means outside the Beis Hamikdash. In the Beis Hamikdash, you take the lulav biblically all 7 days. And that will be even on Shabbos. And if you didn't cut it, Rabbi Eliezer holds that's mamash machshirim. There's no mitzvah to cut it, but it's preliminary. You need to do the mitzvah. You got to cut it. Na'ela, or maybe lamot sukkah. Sukkah would mean you didn't build a sukkah binyan, and now you got to build it. Just an example. But also not v'hatanya sukkah b'chol machshir doichenas Shabbos divrei Rabbi Eliezer. How great is that? Na'ela, maybe lama'ute matzah. Matzah will be like the shtei alechem. Just give me an example. The person Pasha did not bake matzah. It's interesting how nowadays we don't bake matzah on Pesach because we are afraid that B'shoigeg will make chametz. Okay, and chanami, but then it was common people bake matzah on Pesach. And if you didn't, you baked matzah every year before Pesach. But it's the night of the Seder, can you bake matzah? Yom Tov you can bake. So what happens if Yom Tov is on Shabbos? Shabbos you can bake. So Rabbi Eliezer holds you can bake matzah on Shabbos. Matzah v'chol machshir doichenas Shabbos. Divrei Rabbi Eliezer. Now in each case the Chachamim argue. Maybe the one example by shofar will be Rashi holds ein binyan bakelim, period. But even if you already cut the shofar off the head of the animal, but from what you cut off the animal until a usable shofar, you got to go through various steps of preparation. And even if you're not going to call this boina Rashi, but makima patish is one of the malachas. So again, it's Shabbos shofar again before Gzeira Darabba. We will blow the shofar on Shabbos. Rabbi Eliezer holds if you don't have a ready shofar, you can prepare it, you can build it. You can make him a patish. And so bottom line is, okay, I get it. What exactly is Rabbi Yochanan referring to? So number one is that if, now what will that mean? So Rashi writes clearly, the last line in the Rashi, that if you have a dalit conference beged, and you didn't yet tie the tzitzis on them, tying with knots is one of the lamates malachas. It is Shabbos. Rabbi Eliezer holds that you can be toilet. Rashi says the tzitzis on the beged. And number two, that's what Rabbi Yochanan is. Oh, I'm sorry. So tying the tzitzis on the garment is called machshirim. You would think without Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi Eliezer always holds machshirim ardoicha. That is what Rabbi Yochanan is saying, that loy lakoil. You may not tie the tzitzis on the beged on Shabbos, And number two, a mezuzah lepischoi. What would that be? Rashi doesn't have to explain. Pasha to affix the mezuzah on the door. Now, my friends, affixing something to a door, that's not a keli. That's any act that you do to real estate. That's bona fide binyan. You're building it. Faket, you got to put up the mezuzah in a way that it is of permanency. That's that's why many people until today they rather put up nails. I'm not saying that the double-sided tape is that's good because DAF gets very strong. It's an act of binyan. So again, so Rabbi Yochanan is telling you, don't think that according to Rabbi Eliezer, if you woke up on Shabbos, oy gewalt, I don't have a mezuzah. Mezuzah is a mitzvah. So machshireh hadoichen Shabbos. No, we don't say that. Are you going to be Shabbos on a mezuzah? Terrible, but it doesn't justify to be Mechalel Shabbos. Very good. So now that we on our own came to that conclusion, so Tanya Nami Hachi is special. When they learned this in the yeshiva, right, in those times, they didn't have all the B'raises. So first they extrapolated, they deduced what Rabbi Yochanan was referring to. And then they found the B'raisa that it says that Vishavin means that Rabbi Eliezer and the Chachamim, again guys, I know that's Rabbi Akiva, but we always refer to this Shita as the Chachamim because that was the Das Rav. Now what? That she initiates Talisoi, V'asa Mezuzah Lepischoi, on Shabbos, so then that you chayiv chatas if you did it b'shogig, even Rabbi Eliezer is moida. So indeed, Rav Ada Barahava chap the right intention of Rabbi Yochanan. And now we're going like backwards. So first we'll understand before we bring the raya to all the other ones. My timer, why sits is different? Why is mezuzah different? Amar Rav Yosef. Listen to this logic. Lefi she'ein kavua lahem zman oy gevalt sai tzitzis. Sai mezuzah, when are you mechoyev to do it? Always. I know that not at night for tzitzis, not a ksuslai, doesn't matter. But it's b'chlal not connected to any of the ones we mentioned above. What did we mention above? We mentioned lulav. Lulav is connected to Yom Tov, to Sukkot. Sukkot is connected to a certain time of the year. Matzah, shofar. So there, avar zmanoi, batal korbanoi. But over here, since there's no a fixed time, it's nish geferlach. That's what it sounds like if you miss a day. So therefore, it doesn't override the Shabbos. Says the Gemara, no. That actually is a raya lehepech adarabo. Me the ein kavol lehem zman. That's what we're arguing. That's what Rabbi is telling Rabbi Yosef returning the Amid Punkt Fakert. Since it's not time bound, therefore what? Let's read the words in the Gemara and read Rashi. Kol shata v'shata zimnehu. The opposite. Every moment is its time. And like Rashi writes on the top, the kiven. That was a big chiddush. This Rashi. She'ein loy talis. The kiven sheyesh loy talis. Since he owns the garment that has dalad kanfos. So it says Rashi b'chol yom shemashu v'loy tzitzis. Every day that the talis is in its drawer. We're not even speaking about someone that's wearing it. We're speaking about someone who wants to affix the strands on the beged. He's over ba'asei va'afilu monachas b'kufsa. Now, really, this is a machlokes that we learned together. Whether tzitzis is a choiva on the wearer or is it a choiva on the beged. Rashi here understands this sugya only to follow those who hold. For you to say that kol shata v'shata zimnehu, you have to say that it's your mechuyev that there should be tzitzis on your beged. We don't paskin this way. But based on that logic, so he's saying, don't tell me that you're not mechuyev fakert. Look at kol shata. Whether it means every moment, whether it means every day. But adarabah, just because something is not affixed in a time doesn't make it less important. It means that just like every day by sukkahs, you have to live in the sukkah. Every day in the year, you have to have tzitzis affixed to your beged, and the same thing is with the home. That's clear. Rashi doesn't have to explain that. It's taka the chiyuv is on the one who's living in that home, but the home always has to have a mezuzah. Kol zmanei, kol shata v'shata zimnehu. So, but going back, the logic doesn't explain why this would be different. So, Elo Amar Rav Nachman Amar Rav Yitzchak, v'yiteimer Rafuna b'nei Rav Yeshua. Listen to this. Hoyel u'biyodoi lahafkiran. Since obviously we see that one is allowed to be mafkir, his metaltalin, his real estate on Shabbos. That's not called a kinyan. You're not bequeathing it to anyone. You're just releasing your ownership over it. And if a person were to do that, so the talis belongs to no one, there's no chiyuv on the talis. If the house doesn't belong to you, there's no chiyuv on you to affix mezuzah on the house. So since that potential exists, it doesn't make it a definite obligation. It makes it an obligation that's contingent on the conditions that they belong to you. And since now you can release yourself from that obligation, that's why logically it should not be doiche Shabbos. We're speaking about the machshirin won't be doiche Shabbos. Anything that's
Rabbi, does that mean if you have a house without a mezuzah on Shabbos, you should just be mafka your house? Like, is that what you're supposed to do?
Okay, so just for those who didn't hear the line, no, Danny's asking that the Gemara is not implying that you should be mafka your house. No, God forbid. When it comes to keeping of a positive commandment, we learned this already a few times. When it comes to a negative commandment, you can't break it, period. When it comes to a positive commandment, you only have to be mevazbeis at shlish. Remember that? There's a limit how much money you have to give up. So if your home, maybe if you're so wealthy and your home is not even worth a third of what you have, what you own, then maybe theoretically it would be commendable to be mafked. Maybe. But normally we don't say that. We're not saying that you have to be mafked. We're just saying that the obligation is not absolute. That's the nakuda. Since it's not absolute, it can't be doiche Shabbos.
And since it's also, that's a thing, to be mafka your beged?
Do that. We don't. First of all, we don't paskin. See, it's nice that other Rishonim argue with Rashi, but Rashi understands that the kasha of the Gemara kol shata v'shata is only if you hold that tzitzis is a choivas mana. It's called. It's a choiva on the garment. We don't go that way. If you have a dalet kanfis, right, and it's just sitting in your drawer, you're not obligated to put on tzitzis. Only when you wear it. But if not, Rashi says if that will be the sheet of our Gemara of Abaya, then what will be the question? What would even be the havamina for you to be machal sham? Why? Don't wear it. You're not mechayiv. No one is being mechayiv you to put on a dalet kanfis beged. Unlike a house with a mezuzah, if you own the house, there's a couple of details. It's not ownership of the house; it's renting a house. One of the things that I realize that many people don't know yet, and that is that people know when you buy a house, you have to put up a mezuzah right away. When you rent a house, you have 30 days. So first of all, renting of the house is 30 days only b'chutz la'aretz. In Eretz Yisrael, when you rent a house, you're mechuyev right away. And when you own a house, Hashem should bless everyone to be able to buy a house. When you buy a house, there's no 30 days. And even when you rent a house, the Rebbe very much wanted for you to put up a mezuzah immediately when you rent a house. According to some opinions, you're only mechuyev after 30 days. So the Rebbe shita was that either leave one place, put up mezuzahs, and at the end of the 30 days, take off a mezuzah to be boidikit, and then reaffix it. Or put up mezuzahs and almost everywhere. But you should begin putting up mezuzahs even b'chutz la'aretz, even by a rental, you should put it up as soon as possible. Okay. Now what's very interesting here is that the Gemara needed to find the logic why Rabbi Eliezer doesn't apply the rule that he says, not only by Milah, like we mentioned, by Lulav, by Sukkah, by Matzah, by Shofar. In many areas, Rabbi Eliezer says that Machshirim are Doiche Shabbos. We're finding a reason why it doesn't apply by Mezuzah and not by Tzitzis. But now the Gemara is going to go back to the beginning. Hold on. If Rabbi Yechanan is right, Taka, the fact that he needs to have Gzeida Shava for the Shtei Alechem, Loi Lakoil, so how does he know that you do say Machshirim are Doiche Lulav, Sukkah, Matzah, and Shofar? That will be now the Amud. Let's go. It's Pashat Geshmaki Gemara. Amar Mar. Lulav Zabraisa. V'chol Machshirov. Example is cutting the lulav on Shabbos. Ardoichin Shabbos divrei Rabbi Eliezer. So says the Gemara, Minoli Rabbi Eliezer. And don't come and tell me, Ima Oimer v'Shtei Alechem. We're saying Oimer v'Shtei Alechem. Really, it's more from the Shtei Alechem, right? Because by Oimer, the Ktsira is a mitzvah, right? And cutting the lulav off the tree is not a mitzvah. We're going to call that Machshirei mitzvah. Okay, but we know Shtei Alechem from the Oimer. So if it's from Shtei Alechem and you say, once the Torah was Megal in one place, from there you learn to everywhere else, you can. Why? Shekain, Shaydach Gavoya. Korbanos are different. Shabbos is holy, maybe only by a carbon, and not stam a carbon, it's a carbon sibur. And it's a carbon sibur that's also a matir, the Shtei Alechem. So maybe that way they get Shaydach Gavoya. So you can't learn anything other than something else that's Shaydach Gavoya from the Omer Shtei Alechem. Ella Amakra. Oh, now we're speaking about lulav, right? Psukim that we read every yontiv. Lokachtem lochem bayoim harishoim. And listen to this. The Torah could have written Lokachtem lochem barishoim. Yeah, the word bayoim is extra. So by Yoim, the extra word by Yoim is you got to take on that day. No, I feel the Shabbos. You got to take it now. What taking does the Torah have to emphasize that you need to do? If it's tam l'tiltul means that you might have thought that you can't even move it. Now, why would you think that you can't even move a lulav? So Sukkah guys, the Tosfos and Daf Mem Beis Amud Beis has a whole why he says over there, because since it's a mitzvah, you cut it off the tree for a mitzvah, but it's not a keli. Like we're learning the whole sugya of muktzah, that you have to make something for a purpose, and something that was designated for a mitzvah is not called a keli. And therefore, as far as muktzah is concerned, you taka would have thought that it's muktzah, but don't forget, my friends, that muktzah is an isur midrabanan. Biblically, there's no concept of muktzah. Can't be that Hashem writes a word to let you know, to be mechadesh, that this muktzah you could be metaltal. Why would you think otherwise? Right? If it's latiltul, it's rekral, the mishnah tiltul. Ella must be that the bayoim is that you can take the lulav as zavada. That even the machshirav, for example, you didn't even cut it off. That's the source that lulav, according to Rabbi Eliezer, is doich Shabbos. Now, in every one of the cases that we mentioned, and by the way, including Mila, we'll get back to that tomorrow, the Chachamim argue. So now what do they do with the Bayoim? So the Rabbanon, they hold, you would have thought that maybe you have to take a little by night as well as by day, all of the Arba Minim. So the Bayoim is to tell you, not that the Machshirim is doich Shabbos, not only, it's restricting. It's not being marba, it's not inclusionary, it's exclusionary. Now, the Rabbi Eliezer, bayoim v'loy b'layla min alei. So for that, he doesn't need the bayoim. Says the Gemara, nafkalei usmachtem lefnei Hashem alikeichem shivas yamim. That's, by the way, that's the source that midoy raisa lulav only has to be taken 7 days in the Beis Hamikdash. This pasuk usmachtem is not referring to Simchas Yantiv. This pasuk is referring to taking the lulav. Where do you have to take it? Shivas yamim lifnei Hashem alikeichem. And taka b'Medina, it's only midrabanan. But coming back over here, the fact that it says Shivas Yamim, so that's going to be a beautiful sugya. You know, Yamim is written many times in the Torah. What's the taich of a Yom or Yamim? So Rabbi Eliezer understands that Yamim means days. Yeah, in the Beis Hamikdash, you take the lulav biblically all 7 days, by days and not by nights. So Lakachta Lechem Bayoim, the Bayoim of the lulav doesn't have to exclude night. We already exclude nights. The Bayoim is to include Machshirei lulav. Now the Rabbanon, what about why do they use the Bayoim to tell you Bayoim v'lo b'layla? Why can they not use it from the Shivas Yamim? So they say no. That Shivas Yamim is needed. That Itzrech like the Chamino Neilo Shivas Yamim is Sukkah Paket. That we have Shivas Yamim. Problem is that by Sukkah the Torah also writes Shivas Yamim. And Malahalan, we know by Sukkah is Yamim Afilu Leilois. We're mechuyev to sit in the Sukkah the whole 7 days. Afkan, right from this pasuk, you would also think Yamim v'loy leilois. That's why you still need to have the Bayoim to tell you no, that lulav is only Bayoim v'loy b'layla, and the Bayoim is not extra, so they can't use it to include Machshirim. Now, what about the Rabbi Eliezer? So when it comes to these Shivas Yamim, when it comes to Gezeidah Shavas, the Gemara never has to go back and forth because of the rule that Ein Adam Don Gezeidah Shava, right? Elam Kain Kiblo Meiraboy can be done Ma'atzmai. So the moment they would have made a Gezeidah Shava, Rabbi Eliezer would never have made that Gezeidah Shava. He never heard Shivas Yamim. That will be the Bishop. Okay. Now, now that we established, according to Rabbi Eliezer, the source, and why wasn't Shtei Alechem good enough? That's Tzedek Kavoya. So that will be the whole sugya. So why didn't Hashem reveal the din of Machshirim by Lulav, by Yoim, and now let's learn as a Bamemotzinu from Lulav to Shtei Alechem. According to Rabbi Eliezer, the Bayoim is taka extra, and the Nesu Hanach, the Hanach refers to, my friends, the Shtei Alechem, the Nel Fuminei, answers the Gemara, Mishum, the Ikla Mifrach, there is something also unique in a Lulav. Ma Lulav, Shekain Ton, Arba Aminim. It's a mitzvah of Dafka for a minim. And as we learn in Chassidus, and we emphasize all the Midrashim, it's Achdus Yisrael, it's a day. Not like the Sukkah. Sukkah, everyone is taka together. You know, there's Achdus when everyone is the same. And then the greatest Achdus is that everyone is different. You're a Lulav, you're an Esedig, you're a Hadis. And even when you're different, we still unite. The greatest level of Achdus. So because of that unique characteristic of the lulav. Maybe that's why even the machshirim should be doiche Shabbos. So therefore, you can't learn kachim from lulav. Weiter. The next thing we learned today was lulav, sukkah, matzah, and shofar. Let's go in the order. So sukkah v'chol machshirel doichen as Shabbos divrei Rabbi Eliezer. Effective Gemara minon leil Rabbi Eliezer. Ha, come on. We already said no. If you're going to say we learn it from a lulav, no, we just mentioned that lulav shekain ta'un arba aminim, and like we mentioned, even though sukkah is also achtos, but Raket, the way Hasidus explains, the achtos by a sukkah, everyone is taka the same. Everyone being the same is a lesser expression of achtos than when everyone is distinct. Even while you're distinct, you're still united. That's the lulav. Ella Goman, here we do go, that there is a Shivas Yomim Gzeira Shava that Rabbi Eliezer learns. Ella Goman, Shivas Yomim from Lulav. No, it's the word Shivas Yomim are written in both. It's amazing. So Rabbi Eliezer had a Shivas Yomim, but it went in this direction. Not for you to think that 7 by Sukkah, Shivas Yomim day and night, Lulav 7 days a night. No. The Shivas Yomim is to tell you that that just like by lulav, because of the bayom, Shabbos, Shivas Yomim, Afkan by sukkah. If some chacham didn't build a sukkah, and now it's the night Shabbos, build your sukkah, binyan on Shabbos, machshir of doichenes Shabbos. Now the Gemara doesn't go to the chachamim over here, which is interesting. Okay, now same kasha, because sukkah fakert is the one that is kaviyachal the least important. So from that you can learn to lulav. That should be the teacher to lulav and the teacher to shtei alechem. So the Gemara says no. Sukkah also has something unique. Mishum deikra lemifrach malu sukkah shekei leheges balaylos kebayomim. And that is not true by lulav. It's not noyeg balaylos kebayomim. That's not true by the Oymen and Shtei Alechem. B'chlal, my friends, korbanos are during the day. Korbanos. Now, if you already brought it during the day, that's some, the chalavim and avadim, you can bring it at night. That's not called, you're not bringing it at night. Mashein kein sukkah is by day and by night. So here again, the fact that the Torah wants you to have full 24/7. 7 means like 7 days. That is something unique. And had the Torah only revealed it by Sukkah, I would not have used Sukkah as the teacher. You cannot make a b'memotzim. The next one of Rabbi Eliezer, my friends, are matzah. So matzah v'chol machshireha, like baking the matzah on Shabbos. Doichenes Shabbos divrei Rabbi Eliezer. Fragt Gemara minon leil Rabbi Eliezer. Ha ima oimer ushtei alechem. Now we're going back, like we learned before. If we learn matzah from lulav, no, shkein ton arba. Mina, if we're going to learn matzah, machshirei, matzah, doiches Shabbos from sukkah, like we just mentioned, no, shkein noiheges baleilos kebayomim. Hold on, and what about matzah? Just to word it out, matzah is noig when? By night. People confused. We're not allowed to eat chametz for the whole Shivas Yomim. Yeah. But the obligation of eating matzah, the matzah's mitzvah is at the night. Not like lulav by the day, but it's also only a night. It's not a day. And it's certainly not Shivas Yomim. So how do we know? How does Rabbi Eliezer know it from? Elo Gomar Chamisha Asar Mechag Gewalt. Both times the Torah writes the words Chamisha Asar. Chag means Sukkos. So now that we already established by Sukkos, Shivas Yomim, right? From lulav, that's called, my friends, a double Gzeira Shava. We learned that whole sugya by kachim. By kachim, there's certain restrictions. Here we're not talking about kachim. So you can do one based on build. You can build buildings over here. Okay. So Malach Shir Shabbos, we're Amala by Sukkah. Again, how do you know Sukkah from lulav? So Afkan by matzah. That matzah. Not only matzah itself, there's nothing to be mechalal, but machshireh, if a person did not, we should get everything ready before. But if you didn't, then machshireh are doichen Shabbos. Okay. The lichleiv rachmana. I just want to add, just a thought came to my mind, that when we learn Gezeiras Rabbah, right, by lulav, for example, that we don't shake the lulav today, we'll carry. Why? Because Gezeira you might carry. Now, if you carry, you're violating Chaytzah. would that be a violation of Yitzhak according to Rabbi Eliezer? Yes. Even according to Rabbi Eliezer, Machshirim is doiches Shabbos, like by lulav, if you don't have a lulav. You don't have it, the only way to do it is by cutting it off the tree, then it's doiches Shabbos. If you already have it, you have a halachic question, and you want to take it to it off to show it to him, that's not called Machshirim. Okay, back over here. Now matzah is the least. Matzah and the nesra hanoch veligmeru veligmar minei. So mishum deikele mifrach that there is something unique by a matzah. And what is that? Everything that we learn now, since we learned lulav, sukkah, right, matzah. That is, I'm sorry, lulav and sukkah. These are mitzvahs aseh shazman gerama, and the rule is, as we learn in Kedushin, that mitzvahs aseh shazman gerama as a klal, women are exempt. Matzah is one of the few exceptions, because since the pasuk in Parshas Re'eh, in the same pasuk writes, lo yiseichel olav chametz. The negative commandments, women are always obligated. And in the same pasuk it says, shivas yomim teichel olav matzos. So because of that smichus, Chazal learn out that whoever is obligated in the loy soichel chametz is obligated in the shivas yomim teichel olav matzos. And we know that the shivas yomim, right, means the first night. That's not the case by sukkah. That's not the case by lulav. So it cannot be learned from then. Very good. So now we have three. Now we're going to learn the fourth, shofar. Lulav, sukkah, matzah. We covered. What about shofar? So again, shofar is a machlokes tanoim. Rabbi Eliezer weiter holds machshireha doiches Shabbos. Shofar b'chol machshir doiches Shabbos. Zira Eliezer fragt die Gemara mi no lein Rabbi Eliezer, huh? Everything. Ima oimer shtei alechem shkin tzorech gavoya. Imi lulav, no, because what's unique? Shikein ton arba mina. Imi sukkah shkein heges baleilos kebayomim. Right, unlike shofar is only by day. Imi matzah, because matzah is unique. Shikein heges benoshim keba'anoshim. Unlike Shana shofar, the minute today is women, they hear shofar, fine, but they're not obligated to hear the mitzvah. Very good. So the Gemara says, Elo Amakra, Mashgacha Pratas, this is from this week's Parsha Pinchas, right when the Torah is going through all of the korbanis that are brought on Yom Tov. So the Torah calls the day Yom Teruah Yelochem. Amazing. The word Yom is extra. The word Yom was not needed. So what do we learn from the Yom Teruah? By Yom, you got to blow it today, even on Shabbos. Now, what is the Torah being machadish? Why would you think otherwise? Ulamai, if you would think that without the Yom, you would think you would not be allowed to blow it. No. Tana devei Rabbi Shmuel. Tana devei Shmuel, I'm sorry. We learned in the yeshiva of Shmuel that when it says, he's speaking about the Rosh Hashanah, Kol meleches avodah lo yisasu. And whenever, what may you not do on Yom Tiv? Something that's called a melacha. Yotzasa, tkiyah shofar. Blowing the shofar, not for a mitzvah, but blowing the shofar. And u'redias apas, taking the bread off the oven, that this is called a chachma. It means it's not called a melacha. In other words, shofar, even if it's not l'shem mitzvah, is not going to be biblically prohibited. Yes, midrabanan, there's an issue of being mashmiya koil midrabanan, because if you're playing an instrument and if the instrument breaks, you might fix it. That whole sugya, and the Tosfos that we learned above that says that since that nowadays that we don't know how to fix it, Tosfos says nowadays when it comes to clapping of the hands, I'm not talking about instruments. While we sing, we are allowed to clap our hands, and that I'm up paskins that way with all the kashas that we spoke out. Why the Gezeda is normally you say a Gezeda, whether the reason does apply, whether the reason doesn't apply. Once they make a Gezeda, you got to keep to it, but that's different over here for whatever reason. But coming back, biblically, there's no issue playing an instrument. Biblically, there's no issue blowing the shofar. For the Torah against like by Muktzah, I know there's an issue rabbinically, but not midainaisa. So the Torah does not have to write the Yom to be mechadesh that you can blow it. It's not even a malacha. Ella, what is the Torah coming to tell you? Not that no matter when blow the shofar, even if you didn't make the shofar. And for that, let's go with Rashi. You're going to have to violate MERCAVA patish. Elo lemachshirin that machshirin adoiches Shabbos. And here the Gemara asks v'Rabbanan. Answers the Gemara, who miboyelei that shofar is to be blown by day and not by night. I v'Rabbi Eliezer bayoim v'loi b'layla minolei nafkalei. We're going me'inyan le'inyan. What a sugya. It says regarding Yom Kippur Yovel that biblically the shofar is blown on Yom Kippur once in 50 years. Biyoim Hakipurim Taviru shofar b'chol artzachem. And we have V'gomri Mahadadi. We learned every Rosh Hashanah from Yovel Cheder. Look inside the Rashi, 6 lines from the bottom of the Amid, that by V'gomri Mahadadi, that since it says B'chodesh Hashvi, B'chodesh Hashvi, what we already know beforehand that Rosh Hashanah is in the 7th month. We already know that Yom Kippur is on the 7th month. Because when it says in Bahar, B'chodesh Hashvi, B'esel HaChodesh B'yom HaKippurim, by Taviru Shofar B'chol Artzachem. The Torah could have written B'yom HaKippurim in Bahar. And we know already that Yom Kippur is on B'chodesh Hashvi. So that's to tell you, these are the words of Rashi, that Kol Teruos Mishel Chodesh Hashvi Shavos. And what does it mean? They're Shavos. They're Shavos also in the Zman, that they are only blown during the day. So just like on Yom Kippur, we know that it's only during the day, we automatically know that on Yom Kippur, and that on Rosh Hashanah, the shofar is blown during the day. Gewaldig. That's all the Rabbi Eliezer. So what is the Yoim coming to teach you? Coming to teach you that even Machshirei Shofar are Doiches Shabbos. And now finally, fragt die Gemara v'lichlev rachmana v'shofar, and v'leisu hanach v'ligmeru minei. And now we're going to go one by one, that you can't do it. So answers the Gemara, Mitkiya Shofar Rosh Hashanah like a lemigmar, because maybe the reason why even Makaba publishing the shofar is allowed on Shabbos, because there's something extremely powerful. Shekain Machneses Zechroinois Shel Yisrael Lavim Shavas Shamayim. So, and that is a character trait that it doesn't exist by any other mitzvahs. Now, before I go further, I want to add something very interesting that we learn in Chassidus, that the ikir ingen of shofar is hamlachas hamelech tamlichuni aleichem. Here the Gemara is speaking about zechroinus, and I want to suggest maybe why, because we had a havamina, if not for us learning this b'chodesh hashvi, like Rashi says, that kol teruos mishal chodesh hashvi shavis. If not for that, there would be a havamina that you would blow shofar at night, the night going into Rosh Hashanah, and l'chora, even if you would have done it, that would not have accomplished the Hamlachas HaMelech. The Hamlachas HaMelech, the Melucha, has to do with the day, as we learn in Chassidus. So no matter what, again, Shofar is connected here to Zechroinos. And Mitkiya Shofar, the Yom Kippurim, like in the Migmara, they're also, right, B'chodesh Hashvi, B'esel HaChodesh, B'yoyim HaKippurim. Now that we have this rule of Kol Teruos Mishal Chodesh Hashvi Shavos, so from Rosh Hashanah there's an extra Yoim. That should teach to Yom Kippur. And why don't we use now the Yovel of Yom Kippur to teach you that all the other Machshirim are Doiche Shabbos? Because Toku Bezdin, the shofar is so powerful of Yovel on Yom Kippur that Avodim, that the Nifter Avodim Levatayim, the Shadish Chazris Lebaleim, there's a certain power of freedom of the Royer that is contingent dafka on the blowing of the shofar. So that's why if you didn't make a shofar, you are allowed to do it. But we would not be able to learn anything from it. So therefore, again, what we did now is we brought the sources for lulav, sukkah, matzah, and shofar. We explained in many cases why the Chachamim argued with Rabbi Eliezer. Bottom line is loy lakoil, and Rabbi Yechanan's statement was to exclude tzitzis and mezuzah, that the machshirim are not doiche Shabbos. Now, let's come back to our sugya. Now that we went through all this, and we see that just because God made Exeter Shabbat by Shtei Alechem and by all of the above, you cannot learn one from the other. How do you know that Machshiri Mila is Doicha Shabbos? How do we know that Mila itself is Doicha Shabbos? We're going to see that on Kuf Lamed Beis. But let's go to our sugya. So whether you have the Amar Mad or not, that we learned that Mila, that's the Braisa that we quoted in greater detail, Shitas Rabbi Eliezer, that Mila, V'chol Machshireha, we're focusing on the Machshirim now, not on the Mila itself, are Doicha and Shabbos. Rabbi Eliezer asks the Gemara, Rabbi Eliezer, and in the context of our sugya, no, kida amrinon, each mitzvah is unique, mamish, right? Lulav is dalad minim. Sukkah is by day and by night. Guys, bris milah is not by day and by night; it's only by the day. By matzah is for women and men. The obligation by milah is only by men. Shofar is what was the unique characteristic trait of shofar that because machnes is a chroine shal yisrael shel shamayim. So you can't use any of that for machshirei milah. So each one has something unique. Furthermore, on top of the very important statement over here. By all the other mitzvahs that we mentioned, they are time bound. And yes, I know that Sukkah is 7 days, but it's only for those 7 days. However, over here by Milah, since from the 8th day on, if you didn't do it on the 8th day, you didn't do it on the 9th day, you didn't do it on the 13 years old, as long as the person is living, they can make up that mitzvah. Now, we know that there are different aspects to the mitzvah of Bris Milah, and some of them are time bound. You missed that opportunity. We had before the concept of Kol Shata, Vishata, Zimneyu, right on top of Kuf Lamed Aleph on the base. There is that aspect of Milah as well. Nevertheless, the concept of saying that She'im Ovar Zman of Batla, you can't say by Bris Milah. And indeed, like we learned in Krisus, that there are only 2 positive commandments for which we say that for violating a mitzvah say a person is chayv kares, God forbid. Right? If you missed out the Korban Pesach, and if a person did not do a Bris Milah. Now for Korban Pesach, when is the person chayv kares? B'mezid, if they missed that yontif, they missed that Pesach. When is a person actually going to, God forbid, get kares for not doing a Bris Milah when they pass away? Well, it's as long as you're living, because if a person, God forbid, didn't do it until they're 90, they did it when they're 90, then that's it. So there's no Ovar Zman or Batla. Then they free themselves from the kares. So how do you know Machshirim is Zeicha? Elo Hainu Tamid Rabbi Eliezer. This is important again. That the Makra, the pasuk that we quoted when we started the shiur yesterday, this pasuk is really used for Machshirim. When it says in Parshas Tazria, and we're going to be using this pasuk a lot in the next year. This pasuk, there's also a pasuk in Lech Lecha by Avraham Avinu, but let's go to the pasuk in Tazria. It says, Ubayoim Hashmini Yimoyim Besar Orlosai. So we learn from Ubayoim Hashmini, no matter what, that Vafilu B'Shabbos. Now, Rashi right away has to say, guys, look inside the top line of Rashi, right? If that pasuk would have been the source to tell you that Milah itself is Doicha Shabbos, even Milah Bizmana, then you can't use it for Machshirim. So says Rashi, Ubayoim Hashmini Yimoyim Vafilu B'Shabbos, Umilah Gufei, the Dachia Shabbos, Omenina Lekamon. And Rashi's quoting, we're going to have really a few sources. Rashi's quoting the source that it is a halacha l'Moshe Sinai. So since Milah Zeicha Shabbos, we know without a pasuk, Ayat le'beyoim, the beyoim hashmini lad l'machshireh. Very good. And now the final, just to close up this topic, the lichlei b'rachmana b'milah that we said has the least uniqueness l'chora, the leisa hanach, and all of what we learned above. Everything that we learned today, machshireh, lulav, sukkah, matzah, shofar, and shtei alechem anoimer, v'ligmer aminei. So says the Gemara, no, Milah also has something unique. Male, mishum dekra lemifrach, male Milah. Shkei nichrasu alel, shloish esrei b'risois. That in the parsha of Lech Lecha, when the Torah is speaking, telling us the mitzvah that Hashem gave to Avraham Avinu, the word bris is mentioned there 13 times. It's not stam 13. That means that the power of the mitzvah of Bris Milah, side of it being a mitzvah, like all the other mitzvahs, there is also a covenant aspect to it, a bris aspect to it, and not stam a bris aspect, but 13 brisois, and that makes it unique. For that I say, it's Machshireh, Doichen Shabbos, and therefore none of them could have been learned from it. There's no Bameh Motzino, and therefore each one, like we mentioned, Shtei Alechem is Gzeira Shavar from the Omer, and Lulav, and Sukkah, and Matzah, and Shofar, each one has their own unique din, from which they learn that L'Rabbi Eliezer, that Machshireh are Doichen. I just want to conclude by saying that there's a Gavaldik Esicha in Chelik Yud Zayin, Kedoshim Dalid, in which the Rebbe explains, not concerning Machshirim, but the Rebbe makes a very big L'Shitosei, Rashi Toisvis, Rambam and Ravid throughout Shas Mamish. I already mentioned that once when I learned in Miami by Rabbi Label Shlita, he used that Sicha a whole year in Bava Basra. Every Machlikas Rashi Toisvis was connected to that. I'll give you one example of how the chashivus of a mitzvah, according to some, gets carried to everything that's needed to make the mitzvah. Like for example, the mitzvah of chinuch. So the mitzvah of chinuch is on the father. But since the father can only be mechanech if he has a minor, so his chiyuv, so to say, carries over to the minor himself. That's why many times the Rambam uses the lashon that a katan is chayiv, midrabanan, but chayiv. In other words, same thing with machshirim. God commanded me to shake a lulav. Did God command me to cut off the lulav from the tree? According to one way of looking at it, yes. Yes, he did. Because the only way I can shake a lulav is if I cut it off the tree. So the chashivus of the mitzvah gets carried over. And therefore, that will be that shita that you are, if milas is doiches Shabbos, even the machshirim, that's the logic of it, will also be doiches Shabbos, God willing, to be continued.
Rabbi, any mentioning about tefillin? Just came to my head.
Are not doiches Shabbos. I'll tell you why, Tzvika. Because tefillin itself, you don't put it on Shabbos. So how would machshirim be doiches Shabbos?
Why don't we put it on Shabbos?
Why many mitzvahs don't go on Shabbos? One reason is the logic side of Psukim is that tefillin is called an ois, and Shabbos is called an ois, and Milah is called an ois. Aside of it being a mitzvah, and ois is like a testimony. It's like that we are God's people. And since the Torah says al pi shnei edim, so you don't need to have more than two oises. So Shabbos is the ois, and Bris Milah is an ois. Putting on tefillin is negating the other two witnesses. That's one of the reasons why we learned.
We have Kesser also, no? In Shabbos.
What do you mean Kesser?
Kesser, no? Musaf?
Yep.
Am I mistaken?
Okay, very good. Someone is saying something about Kesser, and let's take away on a Chodesh during Kesser, we don't say it. Very good. We don't have two crowns. One crown.
Rabbi,
Yes.
with the machshir mitzvah as it relates to shofar, we said it's talking about makar b'patish, about like finishing it or whatever, right? What about shechting an animal in order to get the shofar? Is that called machshir mitzvah?
You don't have to shecht an animal, Danny.
What's that?
You don't have to shecht an animal to get a shofar, just cut off the shofar.
Oh, you could cut off a shofar from a live animal.
Sure.
Okay, and that
Sure,
would, and would that be, what malacha would that be? Or maybe not?
That will be goizes, maybe goizes. I think we had that before.
Uh-huh.
They were given as makar b'patish. Okay, Chevra, a good
Good Shabbos. Thank you. See you